Awesome. Hello, everyone. So for those in ULAB, welcome to Lecture 11, and for everyone else, welcome to the first LaTeX workshop. So as a really quick note to the ULAB students, there is a Lecture 11 checkoff on B courses. Please make sure that you don't forget to fill that out after the workshop. So for everyone else, as a quick introduction to the workshop, so this is a collaborative effort led by both the librarians at the Engineering and Physical Sciences libraries, as well as ULAB, the Undergraduate Laboratory at Berkeley, and SBS, the Society of Physics students. This is the first time that we're sort of having a workshop amongst both the physics and aeronautics departments, and so I'm really excited to see how this goes, and hopefully you guys will find this to be useful. So this workshop series is a series, so it has two parts. Today we will be covering very briefly the basics of LaTeX, including creating a document with other leaves, titles and text, mathematical expressions. And if you guys decide to join us next Thursday at the same time, we'll be covering bibliographies and BibTeX, as well as tables and figures. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to Samantha.
Thanks so much, Yi, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. There are a few of us librarians in the group tonight, and we're happy to help answer questions in chat as we go. My name is Sam Toplitsky. I'm the Open Science Librarian, and when we are all on campus, I have an office in the Physics Library, and I also spend time in the Earth Sciences Library. Also on the Zoom tonight are Brian Quigley, the head of the Engineering and Physical Sciences Libraries Division, and Anna Sackman, the Science Data and Engineering Librarian. So I think most of you have probably done this already, but if you haven't yet created an Overleaf account, that's the software we'll be using tonight to get an intro to LaTeX. Go over to overleaf.com and create an account there, and make sure you use your Berkeley email for that. And if Yi or one of the other helpers can kind of pop that into chat a few times as new people join, that would be great. Okay, so as you mentioned, this is part 1 of 2. So tonight we are going to talk about what is LaTeX and give you an introduction for generally if you're new to LaTeX and wondering how it all fits together. We're specifically going to work in Overleaf, so we'll talk about that. We're going to go over how documents are structured, get into some basic commands, and do some math and equations. And then next week, we will work with bibliographies and tables and figures. As I mentioned, feel free to put questions in chat. Yeah, can Anna or Brian, could you put the Overleaf, the GitHub link in there too? We're here to answer questions, and we're also happy to answer questions after the workshops as things come up, as you dive into this and get to use it a bit more. We are going to do 2 exercises tonight. The first one we're going to try to work on as a big group, and I'll do some live demoing, and you can follow along with that as you try things out. And then for the second exercise, we'll put you all into breakout rooms. And I'll show you how to do this in a bit. When we go into the breakout rooms, you're going to share the Overleaf document you're working on so that the helpers in your room can kind of help you troubleshoot and see what kind of error messages are coming up and have another view into your doc. Okay, so let's get into the material. If you're just starting out with LaTeX, some people say LaTeX, some people say LaTeX. I'm not sure why I fall on the LaTeX side of that, but either one is correct. You don't pronounce the X, it's kind of a hard K sound. So LaTeX is a typesetting system that lets you focus on your content, and you do the formatting separately. So you're telling LaTeX what something is, not how it looks. You define that on one side of the document, and then you render it on another. In Overleaf, you may have heard of LaTeX or used it in other settings or with different desktop compilers, but Overleaf is cloud-based, sort of like Google Docs, but for LaTeX. You can work in the source code or the rich text, which makes it really easy to collaborate if someone is unfamiliar with LaTeX. It lets you collaborate and share documents so you can work with folks together on something. You can do versioning and track changes. And there are a bunch of templates available for things like if you want to create slides in Overleaf, you may find that there are homework assignments or stuff through ULAB where you have templates on offer to you. Tonight, we're going to work from a blank document, so we're kind of all on the same page and you could see the bare bones and how it fits together. But as you explore Overleaf and see the platform, you'll see that these templates are available. Overleaf is also great at linking with other tools that you might use. So you can link out to GitHub, Dropbox, Zotero, and Mendeley to bring in citations. So there are a bunch of different things you can do. And by using your Berkeley account, you get pro features, more collaborators, more storage. So that's why we specifically asked you to sign up with your Berkeley account. All right. So let me give you a sense of what you'll see once you are in the platform. Right now I have it set to show you sort of two sides, the code side and then the rendered side. Hopefully you can all see that pretty well. And this is kind of like the basic, the standard view in Overleaf. You can open another screen to see the other files you may have, but things can get kind of crowded quickly. And so for Zoom purposes, I'll just show you these two parts. So again, you have the code on one side and then the rendered version on the other. Let's talk a little bit about how the document is structured so you can start to orient yourself. So the essence of LaTeX is writing a series of commands that help define the different things that you're writing. So a command is preceded by a backslash. And this might be something like new page. And you can see that as I'm typing and like fiddling around trying to remember the command, Overleaf has an autocomplete feature. So a lot of these commands are pretty intuitive and it gives you a sense of, helps you see what the options are as you start to type. So again, commands are always preceded by a backslash. What we call the brains of the document is everything in the preamble. And the preamble is everything above this phrase you see on line 13, the begin document. So let me bring this over so you can get a better view. This includes a description of what kind of document it is. In this case, it's just a basic article, the various packages you might bring in to increase functionality, and then some metadata that just says that I'm the author and that this is the date. Packages, we'll add a few of these tonight. Packages help you increase, again, increase functionality, do things like work with figures and tables and advanced math. Another term you should be familiar with is the term environment. So environment is a specific block of code that has a behavior defined within it. And environments usually will have a begin and an end. And an environment we'll get to use later is the equation environment. So when you're in an environment, you want to make sure all of the content is within that begin and end zone. And then the last thing I want to point out is the body of the document, which is everything that's between the begin and the end document. So make sure that when you're typing your content, you're within that. That's a common error. People can accidentally type above or below and your stuff won't render correctly. A couple of things to note. You can use a % to comment out and, so when I recompile, that comment won't appear. Anything with a % won't appear. So that might be if you're working with someone or you want to remember something for later, you can work with that way. At the same time, there are other restricted characters that require a backslash to appear. So if you actually wanted to have a percent, you would need to do the backslash and percent to make it render on the finished document. And that's the same with $, ampersand, the hash, and the percent. A few other basic commands, things like if you want to write in bold, you'll see the bold shows up first. Below it is the italics. And then that will render just that part of the phrase in bold. So bold, italics, underline, all of the normal features you might be used to when you're writing in a like Word or Google Docs are available. In the first exercise, we are going to produce the title, and we're going to do some basic math together. So I'm just going to show you that really quickly. But actually, before I go into that, why don't we share the GitHub? It looks like it's been put in the chat a few times. So we are going to work on exercises that are hosted in that GitHub site. And what you'll need to do once you are in Overleaf, you'll see what's going on. You'll see a default page like this. You might not have any projects yet. You'll want to hit New Project and Blank Project. You can name it whatever you want, you know, example workshop doc, and create that. And that's the one that you'll use tonight. And you'll see it just gives you a blank document with the really basic things to start with. So why doesn't everyone open up the blank document? And if you can give a thumbs up when you have that done, and then you might need to manage your screen real estate a bit to open up the exercises in the GitHub repository. And the first one we'll work on all together is you know, just opening the project, doing title, making sure you're the correct author, and starting on a practice session where you're going to replicate that sentence and get used to adding couple commands, figuring out subscripts and superscripts, and adding one package. So I will start typing along as you all get yourselves ready for that. So you can see I already have a title in here. I have my name. I'm going to change the date to tonight, which is the 29th. And you'll see I have mine set on auto compile on, and it's up to you which you prefer. If you have it off, then you'll need to hit the green button every so often to see it rendered on the right-hand side. If you have it on, sometimes it auto compiles faster than you want, and you might get error messages because you haven't quite finished doing what you're doing. It's sort of up to you which of these options, and then there are a few other options down here that you can do. Okay. So I'm going to add another section and call it practice. Oops. What you'll see, and And this is a common syntax to get used to. If you leave it as the \section, it is automatically numbered. If you prefer to not have it numbered, which is how we have it listed in the exercise, you can put an asterisk. And it'll be unnumbered, just so you know you have that option. And you'll see that in an example later on, that the asterisk differentiates those two features. And then I'm going to start typing the paragraph. Reminding myself the underscore. Oh, I already forgot something. So for the inline equation, you'll want the $ on either side. You can do both of them at the beginning, just so that you know you have the beginning and end closed. And then for the superscript, it's a caret. Let's see how that looks. Looks good so far. Again, I've forgotten to start off my equation. So this is an inline equation, and this lets you have the equation rendered correctly within the text. Later, we'll be doing some equations that are in display mode that are kind of set apart and centered off from the rest of your paragraph. One thing you'll notice as you get used to working in Overleaf and with LaTeX in general is that there are often more than one way to do something. So the way I have us doing the degree for the degree Celsius is not the only way to do it. But generally you want to have your command match the functionality of what you're doing. So if you're doing the degrees Celsius, you want it to be a temperature degree versus like a geometry degree, instead of just doing like a superscript and a 0, for example. It looks like folks are handling questions in the chat okay. So I have an error. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, I've forgotten this every single time. So I'm going to enclose that in the $ so that it renders correctly. Is there a master of how to make symbols like so? There are a couple options. So the P0, I'm just doing an underscore. We do have also in the repository a list of common syntax and stuff, like a cheat sheet from Overleaf. And you're welcome to download that. There are two things. There's this keyboard shortcuts page, and then the top thing in the repo is a quick guide that's like a back and front with a bunch of commands that that you can look up, things especially, which we'll go over in a little bit, Greek letters and all of that kind of thing. I just used an X for the multiplication. And for the degree, that requires adding another package if that's catching anyone off. So it requires adding this package, the gensim package. Yeah, thank you for adding that with times. Just give us all a few minutes to get to the same place. Can anyone help with the question about Google reCAPTCHA being blocked? Right, I'm going to move on. And if you're not quite finished, you can return to this part later. Again, all of this is in the repository. So if you don't finish the exercises with us, you can work on them later. One thing I want to point out, this you'll need before we go into the breakout rooms for the next piece, is to figure out how to share the project that you're working on. And you'll share that in the private chat when you get into your breakout room with the helpers. So at the top of your overleaf panel, you'll see there's a little icon with multiple people. And so you'll click on share. You'll see this next window that says turn on link sharing, and you'll get a couple of options, and you can just share the viewable document. You don't have to share the editable document. So that's what we'll do when we get to the breakout rooms. Right, so we've gotten our feet wet a little bit. You've added some text. You've done some inline math. The next thing we're going to talk about are more in-depth math and equations. And this is why a lot of people use Overleaf and LaTeX, because it's really helpful in rendering these things. And again, there is the cheat sheet in the repository. I'll go over some of the basic commands that you'll come across more frequently. And again, Overleaf is really great about auto-completing or auto-suggesting options if you can't quite remember what they are. And then they have the cheat sheet and a really great FAQ help section as well. So operators, a lot of them are fairly intuitive. As someone mentioned in the chat, you have the backslash for times, backslash for division, greater than, less than equal sign options, and the plus minus. To make a fraction, you have the backslash frac with the numerator and denominator in separate braces. This is a very simple example, and you'll see a much more complex option later on. There are a bunch of different ways to render Greek letters depending on your purpose and what you're representing. Here are a few examples. Again, these are also in the cheat sheet. Limits and integrals. I just wanted to give you a sense of the breakdown and how the thing is rendered. So in the first example, you see the \lim for limit, x with the \2 abbreviated infinity, f to the f parentheses x, and then integral, a similar process with integral, and then the superscript symbol, and then you can see how it renders. For the next exercise, we are going to add 2 more packages, and you'll add those again to the preamble, which is that part of your project that is ahead of the begin document. So you're going to add the package for AMS Math and AMS Sim to help you render the equations and to be able to use the equation environment. And you can do that when we start the next exercise. So the equation environment is a little bit different than how we had the equations within the text before. In this case, again, with an environment, you have the begin and the end. So you'll have begin equation, end equation, both of those are in braces. Oops. And you'll see how you do these partial equations as fractions in the numerator in braces and then the denominator. And then, sorry, I did not mean to move this exactly how I moved it. In this case, the default will number your equation. So the equation environment sets it apart from your text and will center it and number it automatically. If you don't want it numbered, you'll add the asterisk the same way you did to make the section of your document unnumbered. Okay, so the next exercise, we're going to do a bit more with the mathematic notation and with equations. So we can click back over to the exercises. And I guess we should go into the breakout rooms now. So the main thing, when you get to your breakout room, you'll share your link with the helper in there, and you can private chat that to them. And then you'll start working on this next section, reproducing these equations. And if you have time, you can go in for that additional challenge. Does anyone have questions? You're welcome to unmute or put it in the chat before we go into the breakout rooms.